Well, realize your law firm's not special. You're going to grow your business like any other business. So treat it like a business from day one. Think about the things that you need to fire yourself from as fast as possible. Like, you need to fire yourself as your own receptionist. You need to get a good accountant early. And don't be afraid to ask for help.
Welcome back to the Sterling Family Law Show, the podcast designed to help family attorneys build and grow the firm of their dreams. Today, we continue our owner-operator series, and we have Amber from Alabama, who runs an incredible firm, and she thinks about her firm like a factory, being able to get the right cogs in the machine in the right order so that she can fulfill on the services for her clients. She has an amazing interview, and I really hope you enjoy it. Amber, thank you so much for your time today. We are so excited to have you on the show. I have Jeff Hughes, who is the co-founder of our own family law firm, with us today as a special co-host. And Amber, if you could just introduce yourself and give us a little backstory on how you're able to start the firm that you're at today.
Sure. First, let me thank you both for having me on today. I really appreciate it. I love sharing my story and learning about how other lawyers have grown their firms too. I'm the founder and CEO of New Beginnings Family Law. I initially opened the firm straight out of law school and passing the bar exam back in October of 2016. I'm sorry, 2006. October 2006. I passed the bar, and I always want to do that, but that's 16 instead of 2006. Anyway, so I started the firm in October of 2006, kind of straight out of law school. I knew I wanted to do family law, and I knew I wanted to do it in a way that was different than my limited experience in working in a family law firm while in law school. I knew that there just had to be a better way to do it. And where clients were not just, the thing to generate billable hours, but they were humans and they were people who had real lives and real experiences. And so that's why I opened the firm. Also, it was kind of out of necessity. I moved to a small town in North Alabama following graduation because I married my husband. And there were not many law firms hiring baby family law attorneys. I had one that interviewed me. Kind of gave me a really low ball offer, and I'm like, I think I can make that amount of money on my own without you. So I think I'll do that. So I come from a long line of entrepreneurial, spirited people. So it was just kind of out of necessity and a desire to just do what I do now. I do. It was actually an appointed juvenile little fellow who'd gotten in trouble for keying a car. I agreed to take on appointed work. My siblings all grew up in a very different lifestyle than I did. The one closest to me is 15 years older than me. And so I had this heart for helping juvenile delinquents, really. And kids got kind of stuck in the foster system because my own brothers and sister were in the foster care system growing up. We had the same parents, but just at different phases of life, So I had this little juvenile. He had keyed a bunch of cars, and he was, I swear, Miss Amber, I didn't do it. His grandma swore he didn't do it. His probation officer, because this was his 7th or 8th juvenile case. It wasn't his first go around. Was like, listen, he did it. He's going to tell you he didn't do it, but he didn't. And I had to try that case. So I tried it because he swore he didn't do it. And then he got found guilty. And his grandmother was so mad at me. And I'm like, well, we can appeal it if you want to. And then about 2 days later, she called me. She's like, he finally fessed up that he did do it. And I'm like, well, I think we all knew that, Grandma. So I haven't done any juvenile delinquency work in a long, long time. But that was my first trial with this poor little fellow who his life was a mess. And I hope at this point, maybe as an adult, he's straightened out. So
I love that you still remember the first case. That's so great. Amber, I want to commend you on your entrepreneurial spirit. I think it's so inspiring to see family attorneys who have built amazing firms come right out of college and just say, I'm gonna do it right out of law school and just figure it out. Can you take us back to that kind of those early days, right? You're not learning a lot about running a business in law school. You're having to figure it out as you go. Give us a sense of what that was like early on in that first couple of year or two.
Oh, yeah, no, it was a mess. So I have an MBA, though, so at least I had some background that maybe other lawyers didn't have. And now I always encourage, baby lawyers to, you need to go get a business degree or get your MBA or take some business coaching or do something, because we're not taught, like you said, in law school to run businesses. We're taught to sacrifice our lives for the law and to take care of clients, but not like how to make payroll on Friday. Thankfully, I didn't have payroll to meet initially. It was myself with a laptop and a cell phone, in a rented office space in the middle of a friend's insurance agency. So he had an insurance agency, he had an empty office. I practiced out of that office. I remember telling him, I can't imagine that I'm going to need more space in this little spot for 5 or 10 years probably. And that lasted, all of 9 months before I had to take over an extra office that he had so that I could hire an assistant to help me. And then having to outgrow that space into more space. And I have outgrown space a couple of times now. So it's an amazing journey. It's not what I would have thought. And a lot of the, I think, things that benefited me was that I had a husband who was very tech savvy, and was an early adopter of the idea that we need to have a website. Like when all of my fellow lawyers in my small town were still doing yellow page ads, and you got to have the front or the back of the book or whatever. I was like, I'm going to go web first, website, yellow pages online. Like I didn't even worry. I think I got that little tiny thing you can get in the yellow pages just to have something more than my name and number. Like it had a little box around it or something cool like that. But I was like, I'm not spending money on that because I don't think that's where we're headed. And so we had one of the earliest family law websites in Alabama. And so our domain is now however many years old. It's 2025. So we're 19 years in almost to having that domain name in comparison to other firms that were really slow to adopt that.
And you named your firm New Beginnings, right? Family law?
Initially, it was James Family Law Firm, or
Okay.
James Family Law Center. So at the time, I didn't know much about branding or the idea of branding. I knew a lot about name, and I had worked in a law firm in Birmingham that was the, somebody's family law center. And I thought, well, that would be a great way. At least I will brand it as family law and I'll stick my name to it. So jamesfamilylaw.com is the initial domain we owned. And that was the name of the firm until about 2014. And then we changed it over to New Beginnings Family Law, around that time frame. I want to say it was 2012 to 20. I want to say it's 2014 because I started working with a coach in 2012, and we started down the path of maybe you want to brand this as something other than your name, because people were confused too. They thought it was the James Family Law Firm, which was not what I intended. I intended it for me, the James Family Law Firm. But then people started to assume that my associate was my son or my brother or my husband or something of that nature. And I'm like, this is not apparently projecting the brand that I wanted to project. And so I renamed the firm New Beginnings Family Law, kind of with the help of my coach and with my husband, kind of all having insight into what is it we're really trying to give people. So we're trying to give people a new beginning. So we rebranded in 2014. So we still own James Family Law, and it still forwards on to New Beginnings, but because we wanted to hold on to that history of, that we had already built with Google.
That was really smart. Even back 11 years ago, that was a little bit of a contrarian thinking to do that.
Yeah.
You see more of it today, but 11 years ago, that wasn't so common.
And I was one of the first firms that I know of that branded in that way.
Yeah.
Now we have several family law firms, and we actually have kind of legacy, big family law firms here in town that are very upset with the number of branded law firms. They're like, there's myself and like three or four others that have branded names, and so like I said, some of the legacy bunch are like, that's just, that's heresy. You shouldn't be doing.
I've noticed that the dental people have just started doing that in the last 4 or 5 years around here in Wisconsin. Because my firm, my dentist went from like Hanno and Lewandowski, which I can never say, to Dental Arts.
Right.
So like, oh, okay, now I'm
You're
going
catching
around
on.
the studio. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, the dental industry is interesting because there's so much venture capital money in taking small um, dental practices and putting them under a conglomerate like Dental Arts or Complete Dental, or that's a big push in the dental industry, because of the availability of venture capital to do that. You hear a lot of stories that that's going to happen to law firms, and I think there's a lot of protectionism within the bar association to maybe stave that off for a while.
yeah. There's a lot more lawyers in the state legislatures than there are in
Yeah.
the than there are dentists. So I
Yes,
think we're going to be holding on with
that's
like
for sure.
white grip of death for as long as we
Yes,
can to not allow
yes,
that.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's great. Amber, you mentioned having a coach. At what point in your journey did you decide that you really wanted to invest in getting some additional support like a coach? I think we hear this a fair amount on this show, that the ability to ask for help is a key attribute in building a successful firm, right?
Right.
A lot of attorneys come out and think they know everything. And once they start asking for help and getting that support, they can really take off. Did that happen
Right.
early for you?
It happened about 6 years in. So in 2012, what we've noticed is that in every election year, our business grows. The election year, presidential election year, and the year after, we are always really busy. So in 2012, our business exploded in a way that I had no good explanation for, other than it just blew up. And it was between January and April. And we were at a point where I could no longer manage the caseload that I had. Like, I couldn't even field the phone calls fast enough to get them in to meet with me. And I was still doing all my own bookkeeping because, I have an MBA. Like, I can figure this out. I don't need somebody else to bookkeep for me. I don't need, anyway, it was a mess. Because I had bought into that idea that a law firm wasn't a business, it was a law firm and it's special, and it's something different than a business. And so I ran across a coach, and he was holding a policy systems and procedures webinar or a seminar in person. And I was like, I think I need that. And I talked to my husband, who was still not working in the firm at the time. And he did a lot of operations in the business and supply chain in the business that he was working in. And he's like, no, I think you need these things. Like, I agree. Like, we need to spend the money and we need to do this. So we did that, which kind of started our coaching journey, which then started us on a trajectory to really grow our revenue and grow our team and focus on building a team that could do the things that I really didn't need to do. Like, why am I answering my own phone as Susie periodically when, it rings over? Like, why am I doing that? Why am I still doing my own bookkeeping? Like, why am I doing any of this? So, became the first bookkeeper, at however much an hour I was billing at the time. So that really was the impetus for us to start to delegate and grow systems and grow policies. And those are things you have to continue to iterate. So now we're in a phase of reiterating all of those policy systems and procedures because things have changed in the last, 13 years. The availability of AI and virtual assistants and doing things virtually like we are today. That wasn't really what you did in 2012, so you've got to look at those every couple of years and make sure that they are up to date with what the reality of your world is now.
And did that
Amber,
coach kind of help you see that lens, like give you that lens to look through?
Oh, yeah, it was painful, in a lot of ways because he's very hard nosed, and just why do you think you're special? Why do you think a law firm is a special thing? It's not. It's a business like any other. And I mean, it's almost like a break thing. I think that happens to us in law school that we were brainwashed into believing that law firms are somehow special and they like normal businesses. So it took a while, but in that time frame of 2012 to 2015, we really saw a lot of growth both in our team members and our revenue, and it's when we crossed the seven-figure barrier, and that kind of thing. So it was a huge shift and change, and we've moved coaches off and on based on need. Once we got to the level, then it became I really had a need to build culture, and so we kind of shifted to a coach that helped us more with building culture and in the firm. And then now we have circled back to working with the first coach we worked with. So it's it's a cycle, but you've got to know what you need at the time. And at the time, I really needed somebody who was tough and who could push me on my misconceptions about the law and life and business and all those things. So.
my partner Tony Carls just released the actual blueprint of how we grew Sterling Lawyers from 0 to 17 million. His book is called The Waterfall Method. This isn't theory. This is our actual playbook that we still use today, every single day in our huddle. The link is in the show notes below if you want to get it. And if you order before the end of October, you will get free shipping. Amber, you dropped the term that I want to double tap on. You're talking about your husband and supply chain in the firm. Did I hear you say that right?
Yes,
So
yeah.
how do you think about, I've never heard a lawyer describe that about her firm. So can you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. So my husband worked for a large chemical company for 26 years, and he left there in 2020 and came to work in our firm. If you think about it, the way that you pipeline work or you workflow work is just like any other supply chain that you're working on in a big corporation. So, a corporation that makes a product has widgets that get, pieces and parts of widgets that get dropped off within the supply chain. And you've got to know when that's going to get delivered to this point, and then how much capacity do you have to deliver to this point. And that's how you decide how to hire. It's how you decide what new technology you might need, because you need to make X many widgets, and you have the supply of the pieces of the widgets here. And the thing in between is all the people and the processes that produce that thing. So it's the same thing with law. So you have hours that need to be billed, or you have clients that need to be taken care of. And you've got to know along the chain to delivery of the work, do I have enough paralegals to actually produce the work that's coming through? Do I have enough just paper? I'm not a paperless office. If you could see, I mean, you can see some back there, but if you could see all of this in front of me, you would see we are not a paperless office. I don't know that I'll ever get there. You've got to have paper and binders and pens and notebooks and computers, and you've got to have some sort of predictive model that you can build that says, if I get this many more cases, I'm going to crash unless I have this many more people on my staff. And so then what kind of people do I need? So if we think about the production of legal services along like a supply chain, just like any other business, you can start predicting when you're going to need more people, what kind of people you're going to need, and what supplies you need, so that you don't end up in a just-in-time kind of situation where you've got all this work, but you don't have the people to produce it, and you don't have the supplies or the capacity to produce it.
Yeah. Do you operate off of theory of constraints sort of framework in the firm? Does your husband talk about that?
He doesn't really. He talks more about like Six Sigma and
Okay.
quality
All
and
right.
quality
Yeah.
assurance and ISO. Not that like if I heard how we don't have our processes and procedures up to ISO 9000 another time,
Oh my
like I'm
goodness.
like,
Oh my.
he's very
That
much
is
on trying to
deep.
get. He's like, I would like to get us ISO certified. I'm like, ooh, like now you're talking about a whole project that I don't have time for, but. Because I watched him do that at the company where he works. Like they
Yeah.
installed SAP, which is a very large
Oh yeah.
um, customer relations management business supply. Like you put everything in SAP, and just watched what a struggle it was to get that team to do that. I can't imagine just getting our little herd of cats to do
Yeah.
ISO 9000. Like
What's your
right now,
CRM? What's your CRM that you use?
we use Intaker and we use Clio. So we
Oh,
are people not quite ready to jump into Grow yet. Like we're just in Manage. We were actually going to go into what was, I guess it was Lexicata at the time before Clio bought it. We were planning to shift to using Lexicata, and then Clio bought it. And so we were like, oh, let's just wait and see what happens with that. And that was years ago. And I still don't know that Clio's quite baked out Grow in a way that I'm comfortable with. So we kind of piecemealed out a little more that I'm happy about. As far as the front end of intake and follow up, it's still real people heavy versus process heavy. And so we're working on some of that at the moment. But right now we're trying to build out some of the other things in Clio that I think would be really helpful to our team, like stages and task lists and we've been really blessed. We hired a paralegal manager last May who comes from the engineering world of trying to manage engineers. And so she and Kirk are both very process driven. They're very much implementers. I'm very much a visionary. If you think about like the traction EOS kind of system, I can 1,000 ideas of the things I want to do. But I'm not going to carry any of them over the finish line. Like it's going to
yeah.
take somebody else to do that. And so Kirk are those people for me. And so I'm really blessed to have both of them.
Well, hearing you talk about your firm, there is no doubt as to why it's the size it is now and doing what it's doing, given how you look at the firm and how you break it down. So it's super impressive to hear you
Okay.
talk about it.
Thank you.
Could you let's dive into that a little bit more, because I think our listeners would be totally fascinated by the thought process as it relates to thinking about a family law firm like a factory. And I know, Jeff, you and Tony and Jeff Curlin on our side definitely have this kind of mindset as well. But Amber, if you could just give us the high level, like what are the metrics that you're looking at on a day-to-day or a month-by-month basis? And then how are you leveraging those metrics to help inform the decisions you make at your firm?
Sure. So it really helps to have your own personal statistician. I have my own personal statistician. He tracks a variety of things and gives me a dashboard every Monday. So by the end of the day today, I'll have this large dashboard that will tell me, the number of leads we've had, the number of consults, the amount of money we've collected for consults, the amount of revenue we collected, the amount of AR we've collected. I track everyone's billable hours. I track their realization rates. Um, you know, the number of hours we billed versus what we collected. As far as what
What
attorneys
do you
do,
like to see on the realization? I'm curious, like what's the percentage you'd like to see there?
I really want to see. So it depends on the metric. So like right now, we're trying to get everybody's hours up. So we're working on figuring out where are the leaks in time. Do we really are we really as over capacity as it appears we are, or are we just not tracking all of our time? So we're implementing some AI programs to help us try to track time a little better and try to fix that, around that mindset. So what I would like to see out of my lawyers is a minimum of 30 hours a week. Out of my paralegals, I want 35 hours a week. And then I need to see a collection rate of anywhere between 85 and 90%. If we start getting below that, then our cash flow starts to struggle. So we know that we've got to get that number higher. I think family law is one of those really tough areas that if you don't stay on clients about supplementing their retainers, because I've yet to figure out a way to do high conflict litigation on a flat fee basis. If I could ever figure that, like I think that would be the
Hmm.
that would be the
Well, I can help
panacea
you
of
with
all my
that.
bills. Yeah, I mean, we do intensely high conflict divorces, and so you don't know like which direction this case is going to take. If I could figure that out, like that would be like the panacea, I think, to all my ills. But um, that
Do you do fixed fee on lower like negotiated cases or something?
yeah, we do
Oh, I
fixed
didn't
fee
realize
on
that. Okay.
uncontested and kind of negotiated step parent adopt. I mean, we do a lot of family like outside of just divorce. So we do
Okay.
surrogacy and adoption. So we represent intended parents as well as carriers. We do all of that on a flat fee basis. We do yeah, okay. Yeah, things that are super transactional and structured that we've got clear templates for that we can, we know how that process works. We know exactly. That's one of the things we're tracking at the moment. Like one of our attorneys kind of gets outside the metric periodically. Like this really should take you this long. So why is it taking you longer? And that's one of the things we track too. Like if we know that something should take 2.5 hours, but it's taking somebody 3.5 hours, we need to know why. Is that did you turn your timer on Clio and walk away and come back? Like what's going on?
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it too. I had like something that was at 86 hours the other day because I had put the timer on Clio and walked
Wow.
away. Yeah, it's just I forgot about it and left it over the weekend. So it's those things happen. You don't ever
That
want to
really
overbill.
messes your collection rate up there, Amber.
Huh? Okay,
When you have
no,
86
never actually
hours
get
of
billed. No,
continuous billing.
oh my gosh, I hit the thing, and I walked away, and
Yeah.
I have ADHD, so that's one of my biggest problems is keeping up with what did I bill,
You're a
and
visionary. Of course you
yeah,
do.
I am a visionary. Like, please let me go come up with new ideas. Look at your case and tell you what I think you should do with it, but then please let me walk away after that. That would be in a perfect world, that's what I would do. I would just sit down with my lawyers every day and have them tell me the facts of their cases, and I go, oh, this is the strategy I think you should implement. Now go implement. That
Yeah.
would make
Yeah.
me really happy. So
Here's your life grenade. Go figure it out.
we've got all the systems. You'll figure it out with the systems, but like coming up with the story,
Yeah.
that's the fun part for me. Like I like sitting with clients too when we're getting ready for trial, and they'll say, well, how do I tell my story? And then I just take the notes and I tell them their story, and they're like, can you just do that for me at trial next week? And I'm like, no, I can't. You've got to tell this. It's not my story, it's yours. But, I can help you craft it, based on the facts. But I can't tell it like you can tell it because it's not mine. So,
Well, just real quick sidebar here. Our firm handles about 2,500 cases a year, 100% in divorce post judgments, and 100% fixed fee,
that's
all in.
amazing.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so we've kind of figured out a way to handle those high litigation cases
Yeah.
in that way. So it can be done. It's a
Yeah. I'd
very
be really
painful
curious.
road that you could go
Yeah.
on, but it can be done.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd be really curious to hear about that. What part of Wisconsin are you in?
Well, we're in southern Wisconsin, Milwaukee area, and Illinois. So we've got about a third of our firm in Chicagoland area, and about 2/3 here in
Oh,
Wisconsin.
okay.
So we
I was
can do
born
it in
in
two.
Wisconsin.
We've done
That's
it in
why.
two jurisdictions, so it works, but it takes a little bit of maneuvering.
Interesting. Yeah. And now I'm from Wisconsin originally, so I've been in
Hey,
Canada
you should come
for
home. Where'd
44
you grow
years.
up?
So, New London.
Oh, okay. Wow, way out in the
Yeah.
boonies.
Yeah, out in the boonies.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad was always an out in the boonies kind of guy. So
Okay. Deer
yeah.
hunter, I'm assuming, up there.
Not really so much deer hunting. My dad's a fisherman, or was a fisherman. He
Oh,
liked a lot. That was his ice fishing, and some of my memories as a kid is driving out on the ice in the car.
oh
So
yeah.
Dad could open the window and we'd fish out of the window of the car. It was
Uh, I
great.
totally am a big time fisherman, but I draw the line at driving my truck on the ice.
Yeah,
I have a
yeah,
policy
no,
against my truck going in the water.
yeah, no. Like thinking about it now, I'm like that was probably not the smartest thing my dad could have done. But it's like at the time, I just thought it was
Every year,
fun.
there's like 4 or 5 trucks in the state that like just go in. Like, oh man, and the cost to get them out, it's
Oh
exorbitant. So
yeah, yeah, crazy. Yeah.
Amber, I'm so appreciative of this time and your story and your ability to grow your firm. I love the visualization of thinking about your firm like a factory, right? And putting all the components together. We like to end our episodes with some lessons learned or some advice that you can give to attorneys who are looking to build a firm like you've built. What can you give our audience as some takeaways?
Sure. Well, realize your law firm's not special, and you're not special. You're going to grow your business like any other business. So treat it like a business from day one. Um, think about the things that you need to fire yourself from as fast as possible. Like, you need to fire yourself as your own receptionist because you just need to do that. You need to get a good accountant early and, a good bookkeeper early. Don't wait for that. And don't be afraid to ask for help. I think as lawyers, we all worry that, there's somebody's going to say something about us asking for help, or somebody's going to steal our ideas. So find a group of people that you can trust, that may not be other lawyers. It may be a dentist or a doctor or an accountant or someone else, a small group of business owners in your community that you trust, that you can share information with, and you all keep that information confidential. So I work with a large coaching company, but I also have my little small group of mastermind people here local that know all the details of my life and my business, and I know that it will never leave that room. And I think the power of having other people that just walk along beside you, to keep your mind straight when things get tough, to keep you from getting sad, depressed, and dwelling on things that you ought not to, is really important. And so people and processes, making sure you run it like a business from day one is important.
that's gold advice. I'm telling you. So here, especially your first 2 points. Love it. Absolutely true. And I'm sure we could hear like when this publishes like a collective gasp across the United States. Like my
Yeah.
firm, my job is not special.
No, your job is not special.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
whole bunch of
Brilliant.
lawyers who graduate every year.
yeah.
There's a whole bunch of people that
Shocker.
pass the bar exam. And some of the most important people in my firm don't hold a JD. The people that run my business on a daily basis are not the people who hold a JD. And so that's
Same with ours.
yeah.
A lot of similarities. You two may need to connect
We should. We
offline
should.
here.
Yeah. I'm really curious about your ability to do high conflict on a flat fee basis. That's fantastic.
Yeah, the headline is we break it down into stages. So we'll do stage 1, which would be kind of like negotiation. Stage 2 would be basically when you need extended, like not litigation, but just like guardians involved or whatever. And then stage 3 would be a trial stage where it's intense litigation, maybe depositions involved. And we a la carte the depositions after the parties,
Good.
but that's
That's
rare.
cool.
Rare, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I have taken more depositions in the last 5 years of my practice than I took in the first 13.
Oh,
Like
maybe you're
depositions.
getting meaner.
I think depositions have just become a. There were a few lawyers in our area who decided they were never going to go to mediation without depositions, and so then it became part of the culture that we don't go to mediation without taking depositions, and And I've taken some third party depositions, and anyway,
It's
it's been
mostly just an
crazy.
excuse to turn the file. It's mostly that's what it is. And the majority of cases, it's like, oh, there's 2,000 billable hours or $2,000 of billable hours right there. I'm going to depot. Yeah, I totally
And
think we have this certain county up north that's like that. It's like
yeah,
minute they get like the pleadings are served, they send out discovery requests, and it becomes this big like we're going to spend 10 grand before we get you your temporary order. It's like
right.
so crazy.
Yeah, I always tell my clients they can either put my kids through college or theirs. It's a choice because divorce is expensive. So you can ramp up the conflict and be hateful with each other if you want to, but you're gonna put my kids through college instead of yours, and I don't think that's what you want. So
Great. Really appreciate it. Appreciate your time and insights, and really looking forward to continue watching your journey and watching your firm grow.